All right, all right. Peace, 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 and blessings, everyone. Sapo, the Honorable One, the Success Scholar, Hakeem Shakur here. Thank you all for tuning in, listening in. So, I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to just kind of not have any opinions, but I was speaking in DC this weekend, and, some people with their, one dimensional conversations and media controlling mechanism where they only pay attention to certain things that's going on and certain leaders, certain ideas, and so I'm going to have to address this. Going to have to address this, and before I know how I titled this, and before I do that, I want to say that on some levels, I give praise and honor to many of these scholars, thinkers, workers, builders who have done tremendous work for us in our community and who have held the line for growth, for freedom, for empowerment, for wholeness, for liberation. So let me address what I believe is the dynamic at work here, and I'm going to go a little further back for you all that may not be aware, and of course for you all that may have amnesia, right? So, and why did I have to call this the battle of who is blacker and the uh, the rise of the battle of the petty bourgeoisie, right? Now, let me just give an overview, because I have some unique interpretations of Pan Africanism and Black nationalism, right? So I've listened to several individuals over the years. I've been a good student, and of course, Dr. Amos Wilson did some tremendous work, but uh, there are other ideas relevant to the understanding of capitalism and class that come out of the 60s struggle, that come out of a class race understanding. You have the Walter Rodneys of the world. You have the Kwame Torres of the world. You have what's the one that wrote the recent book? Manning Marable. He wrote a book, How Europe Underdeveloped, how America underdeveloped Black America, unlike Walter Rodney's, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. But my part of my background, outside of reading a few books, on, from Kwame Nkrumah, a little, to working actually as a member of NPDOM, International People Democratic Uhuru Movement. So that was several years ago, right around the time that Dead Prayers came out. So, but I recall Brother Ra from Baltimore, and I was very active learning the platform and understanding the dynamics of the working class people, and what is African internationalism versus what is Black nationalism and Pan Africanism. And so um, that is a unique understanding, and I don't necessarily, uh, you know, have this theory about the working class workers all over the world, or this analysis that the African working class are gonna, somehow liberate um, all of humanity. But it's an interesting theory, and part of it comes out of the Marxist, Leninist understanding, but with an African historic understanding. And so, from a theorist perspective, Chairman Omali Yeshitela laid out certain what I believe theories about um, struggle, and as well as an interpretation of Pan-Africanism, as Dr. Umar likes to refer to himself as the Prince of Pan-Africanism. And that can, in fact, if we're talking about the same Pan-Africanism, for instance, that uh, W.E.B. Du Bois was speaking of, and several others. I can't recall some of the theorists of Pan Africanism per se, but I'm going to, really just kind of get into why I believe that some people actually have views that they perhaps are part of the the elevated class, if you will, even within Black America. And another theorist amongst this uh, that did a class dynamics, and this is what really brought several of my understandings about class, was E. Franklin Frazier, who wrote the book Black Bourgeoisie. So again, and not, for instance, me, I didn't necessarily believe that staying in an inferior position or staying economically deprived would add to the value of you know empowerment and growth and healing and freedom. So I had to actually move in a different direction. So with that being said, why do I make the declaration of the petty bourgeoisie? Um, and first, let me just say that we've seen this before with people having disagreements, and we cannot necessarily have some of these infightings over certain issues. There's a way to deal with it, and not necessarily on television. So we have to be more. We certainly should have learned from Malcolm. Uh, and several, when Malcolm X's birthday, I went to a play with him and Dr. King, and I'm sorry, it was a theoretical play, if called The Meeting. It's been out for some time, but it was just a conversation between Malcolm X and Malcolm X and Dr. King. But get to my point. uh, Several people are aware. Some people think I'm like a Umar hater, but that's not the proper uh, term. That's not authentic. That's not accurate. That's not. It's not as simplistic. I don't like hate on people like that. Like I have enough going for myself where I don't necessarily have to be in somebody else's lane to feel like that I'm not arrived or accomplished. That's like very you know that's very one dimensional. That's for people that don't have particular levels of knowledge and good health and healthy families. So we can look at a lot of different areas of our life and know that we've been on our square about certain things, so we don't necessarily feel inferior to any individual. But I realize that in this society, people have utilized class dynamics, right? Class dynamics to exalt themselves over for whatever reason is not necessarily a truism. For instance, there are people that make a substantially more amount of money than say individuals with various types of degrees. Can we agree on that? Yes, and I'm connected to several individuals that certainly make a substantial amount of money, revenue, honestly and ethically and legally, than some individuals who may have various types of degrees. So that's not necessarily the stickler for what we are talking about when we're talking about petty bourgeoisie versus the capitalist class, right? So with that being said, I want to take you all back because I believe that Dr. Umar has utilized uh, class warfare, you know, in the black community, right? Not necessarily against the uh, the black upper class, or what we are calling the petty bourgeoisie, or the the aristocratic black boule per se, as some people have articulated. But for instance, on more than one occasion, he's used his class options and superiority to actually denigrate and degrade um, persons who have less education, capital, resources, land, uh, abilities to provide for themselves, and even the children. What do I mean? Right? Check, and you all can fact check my comments, and you can make comments. But you know, let's look at it. During the infamous rant, he went in, right? Now, everything, you know, could be overlooked. Everything could have been overlooked. Now, some would say, well, brother, he apologized. Don't bring that back up. But I don't think that that apology was sincere. I believe that he should have called the brother and been like, look, man, you know, that was hard. You know, that was really hard. You know, that what I said, and that's not me. I don't feel that way about you. Um, you know, I was upset with what you said about me. It hurt me. Or, but I know some people, you know, they got this masculine thing going on. It's just like, all right, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm just gonna say I apologize to my people, and then you on to the next one. I shouldn't have said it like that, and then on to the next one. But during that particular conversation, right? During that conversation, uh, Umar said to Seti, "You do you even have a job?" So he equated manhood or success or relevancy to having a job. Now, that would be that would be fine and fair if, for instance, Dr. Umar was in the business of creating jobs and creating resources, creating wealth, creating ownership for black men to be men, right? That's what I think is the most relevant conversation that need to happen. That's what individuals need to study. Now, again, is it Umar's responsibility to create a job for persons like Seti, or is Seti supposed to get up from his bootstraps like Dr. Umar did with his military family, right? And his father in his home, to my understanding, you know, and you know, so what I'm saying is that not everybody is going to come from the cookie cutter picket fence black bourgeoisie mode, right? And you know, fortunately for me, you know, my father was around. They were separated, but you know, my father was a postal worker, and my mother worked for the state of Maryland. So you know, they had halfway decent jobs. So I was able to, you know, do all right. You know, I didn't wasn't starving, and I was able to personally position myself to exercise certain class dynamics, so for my survival, so that I can produce something for myself, develop some knowledge, education, and skills to perform in the 21st century skills. I don't know SETI's background like that, but again, not that I want to make this about the SETI thing, but I thought that was interesting. Then the conversation was, don't you still live with your mother? I mean, just straight, to a man, for instance, that may, and it's almost like Americanized as well, that comment, because again, depending upon your circumstances and what you are doing and where you come from in the world, right? If you are a Pan-Africanist, for instance, you realize that there will be persons who come to America and they are going to live together. They're going to have mama, grandmama. I went to, some folk from, where were they? I can't remember, but they have grandmama, mama, the son and the child and cousins. They were all up in the house, man. This is a part of oppression. This is a part of economic exploitation. This is a part of slavery, Jim Crow, economic ignorance, financial ignorance on our part. This is a warfare that's been aimed at our community, right? And unfortunately, many of us do not become proficient. We don't become producers, right? We do not become good stewards of our capital. So we're not able to develop our minds and understand our history and divide our wants from our needs, and to sacrifice to invest in various products or skills or knowledge to create entrepreneurial endeavors, so that I guess we can go and get a 10,000-foot lot or a house or 10,000 square feet, or drive an Infinity like you, Dr. Umar, or maybe wear some new pair of Timberlands and a shirt, a Philadelphia shirt, a new shirt, fresh hat, tilted side, all the fine and fancy European clothing that black money can buy. And even said he on here flossing, talking about my shirt, Negro. About clothes. So I'm saying that's one thing. That was one thing. Don't you still live with your mama, and don't you have a job? So maybe somebody don't want to work. I mean, I wouldn't encourage it. Every able-bodied individual, healthy, holistic thinking, you need to produce. You need to develop some skills. You got to train, right? And it ain't gonna just be about doing a lecture and getting the ignorant masses riled up and run off with the money, huh? I ain't saying Dr. Umar does that, but some other folks, the highly weird people who take black folk money out of New York and go to Hollywood and be on the strip dancing with who knows who. I know these type of people, they do that kind of stuff. So, but so that's one thing. Now, some people may say, well, brother, that was SETI. You heard what SETI said. He did this to Dr. Umar. He called him this or said that. Well, that would be a fair analysis that Umar, no, he was just upset. He's with the workers. He's with the people in the streets. He's with our brothers in the struggle, you know. Um, but another instance that made me realize that no, like sometimes he has some class biases. You know, he has some, you know, boule upper echelon Negro type of mentality, right? And it comes out in a most you know, classist, disrespectful way to the people. And you know, somebody has to have that balance, that confidence, that maturity, that well-roundedness, that fear, you know, the eldership, right? You know, the wisdom to address and articulate these dynamics. And some people may not be well-rounded. They may not be centered, you know, centered, shall I say, in a conscious movement to be able to articulate these things. Because right now, you know, you got some silly lost Negroes out here who are looking at so-called conscious people, and they're like, man, these folks are crazier than everybody else. They smoking weed. They on in Hollywood. You know, they cursing each other out on YouTube. Man, do any of them have any civility? Are they decent? Do they? I mean, do any of them, you know, for real, well-rounded, well-read, and you know, some many people are well-read, but you know, you can't necessarily tell when you are up against a lost Negro, and they going in, and you know, they can use their class, perceivingly class supremacy, huh? Their petty bourgeoisie, you know, aspirations to position themselves to say, I'm better than you, poor Negro, poor lumpen, huh? The proletariat, huh? That's what it was called. I hope I'm pronouncing it. Proletariat, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. That was a term that Marx created for the distinctions of the different classes. There was the proletariat, the lumpen proletariat, the bourgeoisie, the petty bourgeoisie, as well as the capitalist class. And if I'm missing anything, individuals can let me know. But I'm just giving, you know, had to go back in my PE, political education classes, to really think about this. But getting to my next point of why and how I believe that Umar, you know, exercises or has exercised, you know, he has not exercised class consciousness and solidarity with the workers, the working class, black people in the struggle. Is, for instance, he made the comment about how if some children that don't give me money or parents that don't give me money, I'm going to hang up the phone on you if you don't give me money from my school. That's counter-revolutionary. Like, where's the revolutionary suicide? Where's the, you know, going to bat for our people's struggle, regardless of what it means for our personal comfort, right? And this is what, you know, I mean, and even if we go into, for instance, the study of several conscious revolutionaries, I mean, we don't have many real revolutionaries to study from. I mean, you know, the different organizations, you know, here, and this is why we're doing the FBI War on Tupac. But coming up, we could talk South to Shah Shakur, 70th anniversary, 70th birthday for Asada. But so let's look at it. So you're gonna tell a black woman, perhaps a single parent, did you give me money? and you're going to hang up on them, right? So that's oppression, brother. That's people, I mean, people got to decide. Some folk got to decide between food and medication, food and daycare, food or transportation to get to a job, I mean, so some people are really struggling. So this is where, a little compassion, and solidarity with our people has to be understood. You don't, even if you feel, that you need some resources to feed yourself, right? You can't denigrate poor people for not giving you $200,000 so you can drive an Affinity, right? And wear the best luxury European clothing. Hmm? So this is what I mean by some of these leaders out here, that want to live a certain lifestyle when the masses of our people are still struggling, right? So again, I had to make these distinctions because some of the petty bourgeoisie that may watch this dynamic may be like Umar represents the lower class, or he represents the struggling, the workers, and I'm just like, well, that's not as clear. That's not as clear right now. That's certainly not as clear. If you denigrating a brother, who is talking and claiming that he's about the people, and you ask him, you say, don't you live with your mama, and do you have a job? No. Why should we want a job? Huh? What? No, we should be, asking for reparations. I mean, I mean, uh, uh, but what I'm saying, for instance, is that right now that's not here. So you gotta feed yourself. You gotta clothe yourself. Now, some people may want to just live off the land. Some people may want to live off of welfare and get some welfare checks. And if you're like me, you're gonna study this financial system, right? You're gonna master things like this. You're gonna read and position yourself. Huh? You're going to create multiple income streams, right? You're going to study, and create different types of community college educational institutions, right? To train individuals and to look beyond, for instance, local markets. So again, I just wanted to clarify some of these things. And I'll just add another comment. I posted this on my wall yesterday because I think that some people again will take, for instance, things that an individual say, and they'll run with it without understanding the context, the historical context of first why people say things, and then sometimes people that's being propped up as leaders, they make these statements that are not totally a fair, balanced assessment. And what am I talking about? Dr. Umar Johnson made the comment about Fidel Castro being racist. Now, I wouldn't. I think we do a disservice, when we take hard lines on certain key historic figures, right? That were working under certain circumstances. Now, I'm not going to pretend I was in Cuba and I saw every single thing, and but what is real, for instance, is the role of Assata Shakur. What's real is the meeting with Malcolm. What's real is They're sending the troops to the Congo, I know for sure, and I'm not sure if it was Angola as well. I believe Mozambique, but some of the more conscious individuals can articulate some of these things. But those were the dynamics. And what I know, I've read some Che Guevara years ago like that. So I got certain parts and pieces. I'm not going to pretend that, I'm no sort of expert, but I do understand, for instance, and let me just be clear that, we got to understand what that whole Cuban Revolution was about. The Cuban Revolution was about stopping these Miami-based gangsters, huh? The mafiosos, the Lanskys, from coming in, creating gambling facilities, creating stripper, brothel houses that some people actually enjoy. Fidel Castro, he kicked these people out of Cuba, and what was that family? Was it the Batista? Am I thinking about Hugo Chavez? I believe it was Batista. Somebody correct me. But but I know that that's true. Batista's. Uh, Looking it up. Batista, cool. Yeah, that was, yes. Batista, Cuban Revolution. All right. So now you have, for instance, the black people that are in Cuba living in a society that did not allow, for instance, I don't know if they drank alcohol, but I can't recall that. That might be somewhere else. But the lotteries and the prostitution and the gambling to go on. I mean, hell, if we can get Negroes, hell, in Baltimore to stop using lotteries and the prostitution, the strippers and hoe houses, I mean, we'd be better off. So I'm like, hell, if there's someone that's saying that they want to stop this type of behavior, that's stopping the cartels from mentally manipulating the ignorant masses, from doing stupid, worthless activities, gambling, going to stripper houses. I mean, like, that's for the bourgeoisie classes, because the workers generally are spending, 12, 14 hours at work because they have to work two jobs in some of these places, or they got to work sun up to sundown because they working in a slave like condition and circumstance. So they got to do what they got to do, and they don't have time for certain types of behavior. So again, we got to be smart. When we make declarations of, of Fidel Castro, and many people who may not necessarily know, they parrot certain things. Now, let me just go back, because I don't want to pretend, for instance, that Fidel Castro was the perfect black man, but you've got Negroes who are more, degenerate, and they'll support prostitution, they'll support gambling. So I'm not saying, just to say, because some other Cubans, Afro-Cubans, didn't enjoy the total fruits of everything under the global system that exists. So some of the Afro-Cubans perhaps remain at certain levels, intellectually, developmentally, health-wise. So I'm not going to say who's responsible for the Black Cubans failures, right? But what I'm gonna say, just like here, sometimes you gotta grow, you gotta develop yourself. So I don't know what's all the obstructions or all the Afro-Cubans in prison. Of course, there's these caste systems, and I certainly can attest to the redlining that certainly go on, here in America. Uh, but again, I just wanted to add that to the conversation because, again, sometimes people make statements and it's not that cut and dry. It's certainly not that cut and dry to speculate, whether Fidel Castro per se was a racist. Uh, I mean, you can't put him in the same category as some individuals, is what I'm saying. Or Assad Shakur would have been back in custody, for instance. So that's all I wanted to, the point that I wanted to make, and I posted this on Facebook. I just said, was Fidel Castro racist? I just want to know what different people thought about that. And people gave some unique perspectives, but I'm gonna go with what I know. Like, I mean, you can't be a racist per se and send soldiers into Africa and protect Asada at the same time. Like there's some, and maybe they thinking bigger than that, but sometimes we're not players. We're not Black people are not players at this time on the international relevance. So people gotta create policies to get things done incrementally, right? We talk about systematically what have different individuals done. Well, not everything going to be done like that. Systems may not necessarily work like that. So the strategy is, of course, to give people the broad understandings where people can think for themselves, people can read, people are healthy, they can, take their time, they're not bound down to, some job somewhere that don't allow for them to develop their intellectual curiosities, but also to give people the options, these different books that many of the scholars have wrote over the years. So that's all I have to say, brothers and sisters. I know people, people have their, likes and dislikes, and in terms of Roland Martin, I mean, he didn't. One time I saw him at an event, he didn't even speak. So I don't even. I mean, intellectually, I mean, one brother said, "Did you see how he went in on Bill O'Reilly?" So again, there's different levels to blackness, right? Brother Michael Imhotep, he claimed that Roland Martin is all right, he's conscious or something. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be dancing with Hillary Clinton. Do the doggy. Let me. You got what was it? Do the doggy with me. So I'm not. Who has time for that? So that's what I'm saying. Some people, they put themselves in particular occupations where they have to be, you know, coons, shall I say. So I'm saying I'm not going to position myself where I have to be a coon for anybody. So with that being said, we got this FBI War on Tupac coming up. We got John Potash, author FBI War on Tupac, Hakeem Hopkins, owner Black and Nobel, Philadelphia, Eric Squires, film producer, No More Chains, business coach, Her film is called No More Change. Business coach and author. Chinyere Wright, Be More Music Scene poet and activist. Dr. Jared Ball, a Mixwell like professor at Morgan State University. So FBI War on Tupac and all other black, I called it all other black leaders. All Eyes on Me was a real fake hip hop now, music now and then, film ministry in the African American community. Tupac work organizing and politicizing gangs for peace and reducing violence. Thug Life, can RBG be revolutionary but gangster? How drugs in film, music, and entertainment industry are used to destroy movements. No More Change, breaking the chains of destructive behaviors and overcoming addiction to negative lifestyles. West Coast, East Coast beef, where did it start and why? Recognizing the agents of oppression and the provocative plan to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. So that's what we're going to be talking about coming up here July 23rd. Security will be in effect. Capitol Heights, 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. For more information, call 410-209-9687. Tickets $20. Portion will go to the benefit of political prisoners and political education and outreach with peeps at Black and Nobel. So holla at the Success Scholar. I'm out 1 to 4 July 23rd. We'll be in Baltimore and Land of Kush on the 21st of July. So stay tuned in. Check me out. Holla at the Success Scholar. I'm going to do a show tonight on eLife Media, 8 p.m., 9185 Capitol Heights, Maryland, elifemedia.net. Stay tuned in. I have over 70 dope interviews. So hopefully you appreciate this breakdown. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is, brothers and sisters. I had to just break these things down, man. You know, when people put their character and their behavior out there for the world to see, you know, it just takes, you know, it takes a Success Scholar to break these things down and to really give it an interpretation. So stay tuned in. Holla at the Success Scholar. I'm out.